Hey everybody, welcome into Faith in Football. My name is Neil. Guys, we are officially 1 month away from the playoffs. We got 1 month of regular season fantasy football. Remember, fantasy football is not like regular football. We go till week 14 and then the playoffs start week 15. So this is a playoff push that we're fixing to get into. You're making moves, you're paying attention a little bit more to the guys who are surrounding you in the standings. So the experience is going to be a little different. The expectation is going to be different for certain players. The way that you view guys off the waiver wire is changing, and we're here to help you through that. I'm going to touch a little bit on the waiver wire, and we're going to go over almost all, as much as I can of the injuries, as we always do on this Tuesday show. So you guys have this knowledge going into waiver wire Wednesday, when normally your waivers run and you pick up those players that will help push you toward the playoffs or at least get you a win next week. Okay. Now, speaking of experiences being different for different people, look, experiences, in my view, experiences are determined by expectation, or I'm sorry, by perspective. Got expectation on the brain. So, from a certain person's perspective, the what they experience depends upon where they're looking at it from. So, for instance, let's say you go out to eat and somebody told you about this place and they're like, "Oh man, this place is killer. This place is awesome." I've had that happen to me. I'm not going to name the name of the place because I've heard people like this place. I myself and my wife did not like the food here. It was subpar to say the least. And that's being kind. Okay. Now, 30 plus years in the restaurant business, guys, I kind of know what food is and how it's supposed to be. So my from my perspective, this is not a restaurant that I would advise you going to, but the person who recommended it, they loved it. From their perspective, it was awesome. Now, we're just getting through election. Everybody had the same election. Not everybody has the same experience or the same perspective. Even if your candidate won, you still can have a different perspective on how things are going to go. And that's going to kind of shape your experience for the next 4 years from what's coming out of the White House. Now, how does this match up biblically? Because guys, it's all about faith over football. Okay. That's why it's faith and football, not football and faith. So having faith moving forward, we're talking the 12 spies that were sent in um, in the Bible to go and kind of scope out and scout the land of Canaan that God had promised them, the promised land that God had promised the children of Israel when he brought them out of Egypt. Moses sent 12 spies to go into the land. I've gone over this before, but I want to backtrack a little bit. And we remember 10 of them came back and was like, those guys are too big. They're too strong. We look like grasshoppers next to them, things like that. And this is coming from Numbers chapter 13. And our a couple of verses today. We're going verse 30, chapter 13, verse 31 out of the NLT. And it reads like this. It says, "But the other men who had explored the land with them disagreed. We can't go up against them. They are stronger than we are." Now, remember, there were two spies, Joshua and Caleb, that were like, "Hey guys, we can do this thing. God's behind us, He's got our back. All we got to do is follow his instructions and go in and claim the land that he gave us. We got this, we can do it." But the 10, the majority, went in and was like, no, we can't. We're going to get crushed. Something's got to be wrong. So I say that to say this is a lot of times, not just in fantasy football, where you can kind of get overloaded with stats. That's why I don't give a whole lot of stats on this show. You get overloaded with opinions. I can pull up I only follow really two modes of information for fantasy football, and that's the fantasy footballers and the fantasy pros. Every once in a while, I listen to ESPN and Fantasy Plus and all that kind of thing, or Fantasy Focus. But my two major ones are fantasy footballers and the fantasy pros. Right now, I could go to their Start Sit app because they both have a tool for Start Sit, plug in the same players and get two different results. I've done it before in the past when I've had a question and I'm like, man, I don't know who I should start. Should I get this person? Should I get that person? Here's the thing. In the Bible, it tells us that where one or more of you agree on something on earth, then God will back you. Okay. He doesn't say where you and like 50 other of your buddies or influencers or anything like that have to agree for something to move forward. God doesn't worry about who the majority is or what they say. All he worries about, actually, he doesn't worry at all, but all he does is care about what he says. That's what we should do. We should only care about what he says. God told the Israelites, go and take the land. They didn't listen. They wound up 40 years in the wilderness just walking in circles. I mean, they were lost for 40 years. Now, 40 years later, Jacob sent, or Moses' protege, Aaron, sent two spies, not 10, not 12, two, because he learned from Moses' mistake. Moses sent too many people. So he sent two spies and they went into Jericho. He told them, go in, check out the place around Jericho, see what's going on. And they came to the house of a prostitute. Now, calm down. It's not what you think. They were trying to hide out from the king and trying not to be seen. Now, I don't know about you, but two strange men going into somebody's house might seem a little suspect. But if it's the house of a prostitute, and nobody's really going to say anything. So God used that to protect the men that were in doing his will. Now, I want you to recognize something. In Joshua chapter 2, verse 13, this is Rahab, who is like, I think, 30 something odd generations before Jesus. Yes, she's like Jesus' great, whatever, grandma. You thought you had problems in your family? You thought you had black sheep? You ain't got nothing compared to what, Jesus had in his family tree. So he does not judge, well, he will judge us, but that's not what he came on this earth to do. So he had people in his past that were a little unsavory. So here's the thing though, is that even though Rahab was a prostitute, even though she was part of the people who were an enemy to God's people, this is what she told the spies that were sent into the land. Said, when Jericho is conquered, you will let me live along with my father and my mother, my brothers and my sister, and all their families. So she had faith. She knew that God was the only God above all gods. She said, when Jericho's coming. She wasn't like hedging bets or anything. She wasn't saying if. She said when. Can you imagine like being on the other side of a really massive army and that you got the numbers and that if you're in a great city that's got walls around it and you're protected and nothing's touched you in generations and you're knowing that you're going to lose, like the understanding could only have come from God. God had his hand on her. So I want you guys to remember that how we look at things determines what kind of experience we have. Okay. Like if you go into something with a negative thought process without God behind you, thinking that, man, I don't know if I can do that. You're probably right. You can't. You can't. And we're getting in this time frame now in the fantasy world where you've got guys who are on that edge. You know, maybe there are only 3 or 4 games won. There's 4 games left. Everybody's bunched up. Even my league of record right now is all bunched up. I've got like 4 losses. I've never had this many losses before. Um, I'm sitting number one right now, but if I lose a couple of games, I could be out of the playoffs. That's crazy. I jumped from 7 to 3 to 1 in the matter of 2 weeks. Okay, I went into let's see, we're in week 11, or we're going into week 11, week 10. I went into week 9 in 7th place out of the playoffs. Okay. Now, yeah, I had about half the season left. Things can turn around. That's easy. Last year, my boy Caleb, who's still playing in this league, he was sitting at like 9, I think 9th place at about this time. And I told him, don't give up. Keep plugging away, keep making the moves. Same way God tells us, don't give up. Keep moving forward. Keep trusting in me. I've got a plan. Just trust me and walk in the way that I'm showing you to walk, and things will work out. Look, I'm a dad, I'm a husband, man of God. Like I've I've got no options to do anything else but rely on God. And that's not by a lack of options. Like I have the ability to turn my back and to do and trust in my own ways. But I know from experience that my perspective is that things work out a whole lot better when you rely on God to give you that guidance. The same way that God guided the spies to go to Rahab's, the way that he guided Rahab to have faith and believe that these men were men of God and they were here and there was an opportunity to save her and her family, and she took it. So I want you to remember, going in to, I know some of us we've been hurt in the past. Um, we've experienced, and I talked about this last episode. We've had church hurt. I want to kind of touch on that for a second. The church may have hurt you, but it was the church people. It wasn't God. God didn't hurt you. Okay. People hurt you. Your expectation of what people should provide for you hurt you. God is there to heal that. He can offer you a way through his son, Jesus Christ, through salvation to experience the love and the forgiveness and the grace and the mercy and everything that he has for you. He has that ready. All you have to do is accept it. If you want to, down the bottom, hit me up. I'd be more than happy to walk through that with you on a one-to-one basis. So, guys, as we move into week 11, okay, we just finished up week 10. We're fixing to go into week 11. Like I said, 1 month before the playoffs start. You're making the push. Maybe you're pushing through some things in your life outside of fantasy football. Maybe you lost a job. Maybe you just have a job that you just don't like, and you're wondering how you're going to get through that one more day. Guys, it's easier walking with God than it is walking by yourself. Trust me, I've been there. Down below, hit me up, subscribe, like, share, and hit me up with a comment and let me know where you're at and what kind of things that you need, whether it's fantasy football related or not. As you heard in my last episode, I will touch on any subject that you guys want to hit on. I am not ashamed by any stretch of anyone's imagination. So bring it at me. I appreciate you all, and I appreciate you tuning in and listening and allowing me to share my faith with you. So, guys, I want you to go back, look at Numbers chapter 13, look at Joshua chapter 2, verse 13, and read around those verses, guys. Get some context. Dive into it yourself. Don't just rely on the spoon feeding that you get from either this show or online pastors. Dig in yourself, okay? Pick up the book. Look, the same thing that holds your fantasy football also holds the Word of God. So download the YouVersion app. If you have it, open it up, crank it open, read through it, guys. Okay. So we're getting into chapter 11. We're getting into week 11, guys. We're going to recap some injuries that happened. I do want to go over a couple things. First and foremost, you guys know I can't go into an episode without mentioning my sponsor, Zia Rotisserie Bar at 235 Duce Road, Johnson Street, off of Johnson Street in Lafayette, Louisiana. Guys, go down there, check them out. The food is off the chain, is outstanding. The Thai ribs are delicious. The Asian almond shrimp is to die for. And they got a new Kung Pao cauliflower that if you like that Asian fusion type thing, you're going to love this. Now, maybe you're a little more traditional. Maybe you want, a Mediterranean hummus. I got you. And guess what? I got it for you for free. Almost knocked off the microphone. That wouldn't have been good. But yeah, I got it for you for free, guys. Look, you can go down there, show them that you subscribe to Faith in Football, and they will give you one free appetizer for the table on me from them for you. Make sure you go down there and check them out. 235 Duce Road, Lafayette, Louisiana. It's right off of Johnson Street. Can't miss it. It's right before Red Laurel's Health Club, right behind the Grand Theater off of Johnson. And if you are in the area and you need some catering done, guys, we're right around the corner for Thanksgiving. What comes after Thanksgiving? That's right, Christmas parties. So if you need a Christmas party catered, if you need a place to hold it, they've got a VIP back room. They also do offsites. Give them a call, 337-406-0013. Speak to Andy or anybody who picks up the phone. They will be more than happy to direct you and help you mold your catering order to your specific requirements. So whatever you need, whether it's ribs, chicken, whatever, they got you. They will hook you up. Might even hook you up with some off the menu stuff if you ask nicely. But make sure that you mention that you've heard about them from Faith in Football. And who knows, you might get a little free appetizer thrown into your catering order. Never know. Doesn't hurt to ask. So go down there and check them out. 235 Duce Road, Lafayette, Louisiana. And remember, you got to be subscribed to get this. So subscribe, like, share. Got buddies and friends in the area that you want to bring down. Hey, let them share. And next time they bring you, they can treat. So anyway, getting into it. Now, look, we got a little bit of news coming out of Chicago. Shane Waldron fired as the OC with the Bears. Now, there has been rumored that Eberflus, who is the head coach, is possibly on the hot seat. Look, you got the number one drafted quarterback this year. You got a top draft pick wide receiver in Rome Odunze. You went out and got Keenan Allen, who balled out last year. Yes, he's been a little dinged up, but he's still a veteran and he's still able to perform. And the year before, you traded for DJ Moore. These guys have been doing absolutely nothing. So it's no surprise that Shane Waldron is out, and it's no surprise that Mark Eberflus is on the hot seat. So if you've got a bear on your roster, any of those guys I just mentioned, hold tight for about a week or two. I know you might have to make moves right now, and if you have a team in your league that has these players that might be a little desperate, go out if you've got room. Look, ship off one of your mediocre, guys. They'll be more than happy to get rid of Roma Dunstay or Keenan Allen. You might have to pay up a little bit for DJ Moore, but Caleb Williams has been relegated to the waiver wire. Guys, he got dropped in one of the leagues that I was in. He's been passed around so much in my league of record. It's not even funny. I even had him for a spell, and I wound up trading him. So, look, if you've got him on your waiver wire and you got a roster spot, pick him up. Any of the wide receivers, Cole Kmet could be something again, but we'll see we'll be able to see what happens. But if you guys need to get ahead of the curve and you want to try to do stuff like that before these guys pop off, okay? MBS down in New Orleans popped off this week. I'm really, really torn on this because I need some wide receiver depth on my lineup, but it's Derek Carr, it's New Orleans, it's MVS. I mean, I've lived the MVS experience before when he was in Green Bay. It wasn't pretty. It was a roller coaster. You guys know I don't like roller coasters. So I want a nice steady ride. I want a little climbing plateau, climb a little more. I'm cool with that. This up and down stuff drives me nuts. So that's why MVS isn't on my roster. I did try to go out and snag Odell Beckham. OBJ got picked up early. I really didn't need him. And shout out to my boy Nick, who pulled a classic head off your opponent move on Monday night. Actually, I think it was late. Yeah, it was late Sunday he did this. Word was out that Tyreek Hill, and this is going to be a little lesson for you guys who are new. He was facing the team that had Tyreek Hill. It was reported that Tyreek was going to be a game time decision with a wrist injury. So he went out and got the next guy on the depth chart who was going to be in line for a bigger role in that game. Now, he already had Cooper Kupp going in that game when it was the Rams in Miami, but he didn't need him. So why did he go get him? He went to go get him because if his opponent was going to be out Tyreek Hill, he did not want OBJ to pop off against him. Now, Nick did everything he could to avoid a loss. Unfortunately, Cooper Kupp didn't score a touchdown. Tyreek did underperform, but it was just one catch and about 10 yards short of a victory from my boy Nick. Now, like I said, he did everything right. He did everything he could to try to get this win. But that is some of the stuff that you guys are going to have to learn how to do and do it right now, because this is the time when you pull out all the stops. You can't leave anything out. You can't leave anything to risk. Go out and do those things. Now, if you guys need help down below, hit me up, ask me questions, bring me specifics, let me know what's going on in your league, because that does contribute to what advice I'm giving. Okay. Matter of fact, I got a quick story. I got a question early in the week. Do I start Tank Dell or Austin Eckler? Now, I knew that Brian Robinson Jr. was going to be out. I knew that Washington had a tough matchup against Pittsburgh. So I told him start Tank Dell. Now came back and the question should have been something different. Um, the question should have been, do I start Josh Downs or Austin Eckler? Now I told him to start Tank Dell. I have Tank Dell. I would have started Tank Dell. Austin Eckler had a bigger day because Brian Robinson Jr. was out. Josh Downs, I really don't know what to tell you guys about the Colts because Joe Flacco could be looking at the bench again, and they could be going back to Anthony Richardson. That is yet to be determined, but that's something that you guys need to pay attention to this upcoming week. Another benching that might happen is they are evaluating everything in New York with Daniel Jones. Daniel Jones has played abysmal this season. He's done absolutely nothing with the opportunities that he's had. So they're looking at Drew Lock. Guys, we know Drew Lock from his stint in not just Denver, but also in Seattle when he backed up Geno Smith. Now, when he backed up Geno Smith for that game, he balled out. That's the Drew Lock that we're looking for. Now, as a Malik Neighbors owner, I will tell you, I want a change. Okay. Daniel Jones ain't cutting it. They were doing great beginning of the season. I don't know what happened in New York, but apparently he forgot that Malik Neighbors is really good at football and he starts throwing it to other guys. I don't know what's going on, but even those guys, even Wan'Dale Robinson, even Darius Slayton, those guys have not done anything. And I know Darius Slayton's been hurt, but if Darius Slayton's out, Wan'Dale Robinson should be picking up a little better, and their schedule is cake for the rest of the season, guys. So I'm hoping that even Drew Lock can't screw this up. So knock on wood, and we're praying a whole lot for him. So anyway, bye weeks, guys. We got 4 teams on bye this week. We got Arizona, the Giants, the Bucks, and the Panthers. Now, the Panthers, that's not really going to affect a whole lot of people unless you own Chuba Hubbard. Then you're going to be looking for a running back to fill in that spot for the 1 week. The Bucks, with the absence or the loss of Chris Godwin, Mike Evans, it's basically been Baker Mayfield, Rachaad White. Those are the only. Oh, and Cade Otton. Can't forget the star tight end. But those 3 are pretty much the only 3 that you're losing right there. The Giants have been playing abysmal. Hopefully, in the bye week they'll get things right, come back new and refreshed. Arizona, look, I don't know what happened this week. Kyler Murray just balled out. Marvin Harrison Jr. actually had a decent day. So I'm hoping that on this bye week, they can continue coming out of that into week 12 because I need some help in week 12. I'm losing 2 of my running backs. And if you guys have not looked ahead to the apocalypse, remember, we've got 6 teams going on bye in week 12. Okay. So we got 2 weeks. Make sure you're making your adjustments. And look, I'm going to put it to you like this. We have a team in our league, in my league of record, that has been absolutely decimated, but with injury. It's my boy Dave Mann. Now he actually wound up winning this week, but listen to this list of players that he has out and unavailable. And remember, the best ability in fantasy football is availability. Okay. I don't care how well you throw the ball, how well you run routes, how well you catch the ball, how well you see the holes in the offensive or in the defensive line. I don't care. If you're not on the field, that doesn't really do me any good. So Trevor Lawrence, Keon Coleman, T. Higgins, Nico Collins, and DK Metcalf just on one team, all out. Okay. So These are things that you guys need to be paying attention to. Look around your league. Go and look on other rosters. See who is hurting where and where you can take advantage of that for your benefit so that you can strengthen your team. Okay. Again, if you need help in finding out strengths, weaknesses, or what to offer who, down below, I will help you out. Okay. Just this past week, I was able to pick up Calvin Ridley because he didn't do that well last week. He had popped off the week before, and I offered Cedric Tillman. Now, here's the thing. I know Cedric Tillman scored like over 20 points the first week he popped off. And then week 9, he scored 19. So week 10, he was on a bye. Now, coming into week 11, he's got a decent matchup with New Orleans, but the rest of the season is brutal for wide receivers for Cleveland. They're going up against some top notch, and as a matter of fact, if you look at the fantasy footballers um, rankings for strength of schedule for the rest of season, points allowed means that whatever team they're going up with allows so many points per game to the position. They are dead last, 32nd, dead last for rest of season points allowed. In schedule adjusted, which is points against expectation, that means that their players expected to get so many points. They are 27th right now in points adjusted against expectation. So, guys, look for stuff like that. Check out even on Sleeper. It shows you the green and the yellow and the red and all that stuff. Look at the rest of season schedule. Pittsburgh has an outstanding rest of season schedule. Tennessee has an outstanding rest of season schedule, both for wide receivers. Check stuff like that out when you're making your offers so you're not stuck with somebody who's got really tough matchups coming up. Something to be aware of. All right, guys. So we talked about bye weeks, Arizona, Giants, Bucks, Panthers, all out. Another guy who may be out for the rest of the season is Dak Prescott. Well, actually, he is out for the rest of the season. It just came out right before I pressed record on this, confirming that Dak Prescott will miss the rest of this season due to his hamstring injury, and he's looking at surgery, which will put him, if I'm not mistaken, about 6 to 8 months out. So if he has it now, he should be good to go for the beginning of next season. But that's a TBD, and it's more of a fantasy dynasty thing than it is redraft. But regardless, if you had Dak Prescott, you might as well go ahead and drop him and make room on your roster for somebody else. Okay. CeeDee Lamb owners, sorry, you're stuck with Cooper Rush and Trey Lance unless they make a move and sign somebody off the street. I heard Tim Tebow is still out there, but don't know. Now totally opposite way, you could go Johnny Manziel because I know, you know, Jerry Jones really liked Johnny coming out of college. But anyway, another quarterback that you guys need to keep an eye on is Trevor Lawrence with the Jaguars. He is suffering with an AC joint sprain and he might need surgery. So your backup there is Mac Jones. Now, any Patriots fan will let you know that Mike Jones was when he was with the Patriots and coming into the Jaguars. That means that their pass catchers are going to be lacking. Okay, so if you have a Jaguar on your team, now might be the time to get out from underneath of that and trade them away for something a little better. Okay. Now, speaking of something better, guys, I can't tell you anything that's better than Keller's Bakery pies for your holiday season. I've already got my 2 ordered, getting pecan, getting the lemon meringue. They will be on my table for Thanksgiving. So if you need some holiday help with the sweets, go down to Keller's Bakery at 627 Lafayette Street in Youngsville, Louisiana. Make sure you're getting the one in Youngsville, not the one downtown in Lafayette. That's where this special applies, where you go down there, you show them that you subscribe to this channel, and you can pick up without purchase 2 free cookies from me on them for you. Guys, go down there, check them out, and look, I'm going to tell you right now, you might not need to buy anything to get these 2 cookies, but once you go down there and that smell hits you when you walk through the door, you're not going to be able to not buy anything and walk out the door with two cookies. You're gonna have to get something else. Look, especially if the family finds out that you were at Keller's and you didn't buy them anything, you in trouble. So trying to help you out here. Pick up a dozen donuts. You got a birthday coming up. You got a lot of Thanksgiving babies, a lot of Christmas babies. My cousin Amy is a Christmas baby, so if you need a birthday cake, if you want a king cake, yes, just because it's not king cake season doesn't mean you can't get one from Keller's. They do those year round. They're open Tuesday through Saturday, 6 a.m. to 3 p.m. Go down there and check them out. 627 Lafayette Street, Youngsville, Louisiana. And give a shout out to my boy Dusty, who I'm hoping makes the playoffs because I really want to beat him. So just being honest. But yeah, go down there, check them out down at Keller's. They are absolutely phenomenal in everything they do. They put a lot of heart into their product, and you can taste it. Trust me, I have tasted the difference myself. So go down and check out Keller's Bakery, 627 Lafayette Street, Youngsville, Louisiana. Next up, guys, Tyreek Hill dealing with that wrist injury. We noted that a little while ago, talking about that game. But this is something to keep an eye on. Look, Tyreek is a trooper. He's a soldier. He's going to keep pushing through. But this could affect his performance moving forward, which means if you've got Jalen Waddle, you're probably holding on to him. So things are starting to look a little more up as long as Tua can stop putting himself in the line of fire. Look, he tried to tackle after he threw an interception on Monday night, and everybody in Miami everybody around the NFL was holding their breath when they saw this one. So Tyreek Hill wrist injury, make sure you guys are keeping an eye on that. Sam Laporta is labeled as day-to-day with a shoulder injury. So make sure that you're keeping an eye on that one as well. Sam Laporta has not been what you drafted him to be this year. Look, I would love to tell you to go ahead and trade him, but he's on a really good offense, and I get it. It's hard. If you and I don't recommend that you carry 2 tight ends, but this could be a case of a landmine for your league, where if you want to drop him, you're letting somebody else take that headache. Now, I would only say drop him if you've got a backup like Cade Otton, who has been balling out. Somebody like that, David Njoku, who's coming back off a bye week this past week. If you need answers, hit me up down below, guys, on Sam Laporta. If you're trying to figure out what to do with him, let me know. A little bit of good news is that Nico Collins is off of IR. The bad news was he didn't start week 10. That was good news for me because I own Tank Dell. So I was happy about that. Now, regardless, I'm going to be happy because I know what Tank Dell looks like with and without Nico Collins, and they're both really good outlooks. So if you have Nico Collins, he is expected back for their week 11 matchup against a reeling Dallas team who's just been absolutely horrible. Now, the only bad thing is that Texans really don't have an offensive line to speak of, and CJ Stroud is sacked a ton, and Micah Parsons is back for Dallas. So hopefully they don't need a whole lot of down the field targets for Nico. They can kind of get him some short to intermediate stuff to get him rolling because I don't think CJ Stroud's going to have a whole lot of time in the pocket to look downfield, which is, again, a plus for me because Tank Dell's the intermediate guy. But anyway, keep an eye out on Nico and his progression this week in practice. Chris Olave hit IR. He's out until week 14. So if you guys are ones who are set in your league at wide receiver, if your playoff spot is pretty much sewn up, you might want to take a shot at Chris Olave because he comes back and balls out. That could be a league winner. Now, I'm only recommending this move if you've got players to spare and you have postseason in your sights comfortably. Don't sacrifice yourself on a hope. Okay. Try to go out and get a little more than what you're paying for. Okay, guys. That's the secret in trading and fantasy is that yes, you want to have an even trade, but hey, we all want to win. Okay, now sometimes to get these deals done, you got to sacrifice a little bit, but if you guys need help with that, again, ask anybody in my league that I play with. I am the trade guy, so hit me up and let me know what you're looking at. Good news for CMC owners. CMC was back in action. His stat line was 13 carries for 39 yards, 6 receptions for on 7 targets for 68 yards. So he was doing a little bit of everything, not a whole lot of one thing, but he's just getting ramped up. Okay. I would suggest that you closely monitor this week's practice as he's coming out of his first game of action. See how that tendonitis does. Make sure it doesn't flare up. Now, this translates into Jordan Mason, who is his backup. Now, everybody this week is going to be talking about insurance backs, making sure that you guys lock up those insurance backs if you have a roster spot available. Guys like Blake Corum with the Rams, who backs up Kyren Williams, Audric Estime, who is getting some play in Denver behind Javonte Williams, guys like that. So if you guys see players who are doing well, you might want to get their backup because if something happens to them, like in Minnesota, Aaron Jones was carted off the field, then came back. But the clear number one in Minnesota is newly acquired Cam Akers. He has jumped over Ty Chandler as the backup in Minnesota. High-powered offense. I know it didn't look like this past week, but it is. He's a high-powered offense. If something happens to Aaron Jones, Cam Akers is going to be the guy that y'all are going to want to have on your roster. Same way if you have Kyren Williams. If Blake Corum is available, which he probably is in most leagues, except ours, sorry, I got him. But if he's available, then you're going to want to sorry, I had to update him, make sure it wasn't newsworthy. You're going to want to make sure that you lock up Blake Corum on your roster prior to the trade deadline or waivers cutting off. I know I cut waivers off in our league, or I cut trading off in our league after week 14, so that whoever you're going into the playoffs with, that's who you got. Mike Evans from Tampa Bay. We just talked about that a little while ago. Mike Evans is due back week 12. They're on bye this week. So coming off of this week's bye, they go and face a abysmal New York Giants team. So you want to talk about a get-right game for Baker after this past performance where I think Matthew Stafford outperformed him? Mike Evans is going to be in line for a huge day against the Giants, especially coming off of a bye and getting him back. And there's no Chris Godwin. It's just going to be him. So it's going to be crazy. Amari Cooper. And I don't know what's going on with wide receivers and wrist injuries, but Amari Cooper dealing with a wrist injury. Keon Coleman dealing with a wrist injury, both on the Bills. Keon Coleman is out until week 13. They have a week 12 bye. He's already deemed out this week. And then week 12, he's going to be out because of a bye. And then week 13 should be back. So something to keep an eye on there. Guys to pick up in Buffalo, Curtis Samuel, Khalil Shakir to pick up as well. So a couple of options there in Buffalo. George Kittle is dealing with a irritation of a hamstring injury. So, guys, if you guys have had the George Kittle experience, you know that this is par for the course. So keep an eye on it throughout this week. Just something to monitor. Now, this week we got Philly, we got Washington, Thursday Night Football. Make sure you guys are putting those players in their positional spots. So if you've got Austin Ekeler, take him out of your flex, put him in your running back spot. You want to make sure that all of your Sunday night and Monday night players, which we'll go over that Thursday show when I record that, and we'll go over, who's going to be playing those games. But take a look at your roster. If your players are playing Sunday night or Monday night, make sure they are in your flex. So if anything happens, you have more options to switch out. Okay. But yeah, so keep an eye on the George Kittle injury. Marshawn Lloyd had his practice window open by Green Bay. Now, this is important because this guy could be another insurance back that you want to have. Josh Jacobs with Green Bay has been phenomenal this year. He's been absolute killing it. So if anything happens to him, Marshawn Lloyd can step right in there. And I'm not saying to expect the same thing, but the ability to perform is there for Lloyd. Next up, DK Metcalf is expected at practice on Wednesday. So keep an eye on that as well. He's been out for a couple of weeks dealing with a knee injury. So keep an eye out, fingers crossed. Me personally, I hope he doesn't come back till week 13, but that's because I face him week 12. Anyway, we just touched on Brian Robinson Jr. being out. He was limited. Now, when they have a Thursday game, they do a walkthrough on Monday and they do an expectation of whether or not that player would have participated fully, whether they would have been limited or whether they would have been unable to participate. And Brian Robinson Jr. was limited. Now, that's a whole lot different than out. So definitely something to keep an eye on for today's report and Wednesday's report coming out of Washington. If you've got Brian Robinson Jr., look, you're running a risk putting him in. It's an early game. You're going to have to make the decision quick and sooner than you probably want to. If you've got Austin Ekeler, look, he's going to get work regardless of whether or not Brian Robinson Jr. plays or not, but he gets a whole lot more, as we saw this past weekend, if Brian Robinson Jr. does miss. Devonta Smith. Now, look, I don't know about you. I was eyeing Devonta Smith as a possible trade target, but I looked at his boxer. Something just looked off. I was watching this game because I had Jalen Hurts and Saquon, so I was kind of debating on whether or not to pick him up or go make a play for him anyway. I did make a play for him. I was shot down by it, but afterwards, I was watching the game and I did not. He didn't seem right. Something just seemed off. And it turns out he's dealing with a hamstring injury. So Devonta Smith is dealing with a hamstring injury. He's probably going to be limited. So make sure that you're keeping an eye on that. If you are any owner of Jalen Hurts, AJ Brown, your expectations are going to need to be adjusted. We spoke a little bit about Aaron Jones and Cam Akers being his backup. The reason that he was carted off was a chest rib injury. Now, x-rays did come back negative. That's why he came back into the game on Sunday, but he's going to be sore. If they choose to sit him this week, then Cam Akers is probably going to get most of the work out of that backfield. We talked about Keon Coleman, Pachinko, and Juju Smith-Schuster are close to returning to practice. Now, from what I'm reading, Juju Smith-Schuster is closer than Pachinko. Remember, Pachinko had the fractured fibula, and he has been out, I think, since like September. It's been absolutely horrid having to deal with that. Now, Kareem Hunt has filled in spectacularly in his absence, but when Pachenko comes back, because Hunt has done so well, what is going to be the dynamic? That's why I went ahead and traded away Pachenko earlier. I think it was like 3 weeks ago. I sent him off, but it was a trade package. But anyway, so something to keep an eye on. If you've been holding Pachenko, congratulations, he's coming back. How he's going to be, I don't know. If you are on the verge of playoffs, hang on to him. If you're not, if you need some help, go make a play for somebody who can help you now. Okay. Somebody who's eyeing the playoffs, somebody who's kind of got that spot locked up, they can take on a lot more risk than you can holding him. Okay. And then last up, Dalton Kincaid is dealing with a knee injury. Guys, we saw this in the game this weekend. He did not do well. So he actually left the game early and did not return. So he's dealing with a knee injury. Make sure you keep an eye on that as well. That makes Curtis Samuel and Khalil Shakir even more valuable now that Dalton's down. Keon Coleman is down. Amari Cooper is dealing with a wrist injury. Guys, Josh Allen ain't got nobody else to pass to. So stuff to keep an eye out on. Remember, start sets are going to be on the next episode. If you guys got any questions, hit me up below. Let me know what your struggles are and what you're dealing with, and help you out the best I can. So, guys, as always, I appreciate you tuning in. Thank you for watching. And remember, football's good, but God is greater. And we will see you guys next time on Faith and Football.